What is up, guys? It is Stu, and it is another episode of the What the Fuck Gym Talk podcast. Kory Angelin is on the podcast with me today. I was introduced to him through a mutual friend, Hensley, who's been on the podcast before. Badass in the boutique business consulting space here in the fitness industry. Connected the two of us, but I had heard your name even prior. Volo Fit in the South End location here in Charlotte goes up, and I'm this pompous asshole. I go walking in with my camera, like literally, I mean, they don't know who I am. I haven't done anything. I just walk in like I'm going to start film. I want to film. I want to see what the space looks like. And I got to meet one of the GMs, someone you guys had acquired from an Orange Theory, I think, down here.
Either Alex or
it was a dude. It was a guy.
Bill.
Maybe. Okay. Very good dude. Chatty Cathy of a motherfucker, but great guy. He was phenomenal. He took me through a whole tour, let me film. We talked. You guys were doing a pre-sell out of one of the breweries. They have a little coffee spot in there, and your team was in there doing pre-sell and shit. It was great. So I got to see that. I've been into the final product since it opened back up, and I'm just so intrigued with all these boutique models that have popped up where everyone's kind of grabbing, it's like, okay, I'm grabbing a little bit of CrossFit, a little bit of Orange Theory. Let me sprinkle some berries on that shit. And now I've got my own model.
A little bit of 45 in there.
Yeah, let me drop some 45 in there. And it's super interesting. And I want to get your opinion, and just for everyone, for some context, just kind of how did you get into the industry? What was the first job you had in the industry? And then just give us the 2-minute wrap of kind of how you've kind of plowed through all these different, elements of our industry.
Yeah. So great stuff, Stu. And thanks for having me on. First of all, Hensley, don't ever fuck with Hensley. She will crush you in the business industry of fitness. So I love that. I'm glad she introduced us. But yeah, I mean, what is what I always tell people, if you ever want to learn the business of fitness, work at a Lifetime. That was my first kind of foray into like working at a gym, right? But this gym happens to be 365,000 square foot building where you have 45 trainers on staff and your budgets are $300K a month, right? And that was like, I was like in my early 20s in New York. And so some people would call me pompous as well, Stu. So I could sympathize there. And really, it taught me that it wasn't just about selling like personal training. It was like a great sale there is like you sell personal training, you sell a heart rate monitor, a metabolic test, a nutrition package, and sessions with the RD, the registered dietitian. Like that's when you're coming to the office and high-fiving. What I learned, the problem is because I was so pompous and cocky in my early 20s, I was doing great. I would sell like there's no tomorrow. And there's a reason why I always believe I've always been a great salesman is because I really focus more on the experience and not the price, which I know you're all about in terms of like not building just a gym, you're building a business, which means you're building that experience. The problem was all my other staffers were doing terrible. And really what I learned is I had no idea how to coach back then. And so, my career evolved into other big box gyms like Equinox and 24 Hour Fitness. Again, some of the biggest in the world, right? But what I learned is boutiques started to come around. And really, I think you and I will agree, CrossFit really set the trend. Yeah. I mean, if you go back and look, and I know you've had a lot of people on the show that have talked about this in the past, CrossFit were the trendsetters, man. They lasted for a long time and they're still around and they're still doing well, right? And so there was a reason why that happened. Experience. The experience you have from that small knit community piqued my interest. And so as I'm going through my career in big box, I'm like, what is going on that people are leaving to go to these boutique studios? And then obviously you saw the OTFs come on board, F45, which I had the privilege to work for. And so really for me, it's about community, the workout, and technology. That's what I think boutique does well, and why I decided to come more onto the franchising boutique side of the business versus the big box.
Yeah. And so my formal education in college was exercise phys. And then my informal, what I call my business boot camp was 2.5+ years working for Urban Active, which was later acquired by LA Fitness, and doing that, and then becoming the VP of a bunch of clubs in Kentucky and North Carolina. And like, for anyone who's like, I want to get into the industry, I'm like, listen, I know you're going to fucking hate this answer, but dude, just fucking eat crow and go work at a big box club that is literally that you will not survive 90 days if you can't do a floor pool. If you can't fucking go ahead and you cannot manage budgets, you can't hire, like it's one of the best things you could possibly do. It's a college grade education, in my opinion, while you get paid, and you will instantly find out. Cause just like, I remember a guy telling me I didn't even know I wanted to open a gym, and I was just a lowly trainer. I'm like, okay, cool. So first day, how do I get clients? Like, how the fuck do you think? You see all those motherfuckers out there? You go out and you do a floor pull. And this is in the iPod days, which, I mean, the headphones are still a thing now, but you got to go and interrupt Sally while she's jamming out to fucking, you know, whatever the fuck was playing back then, and get her to be like, hey, you're kind of doing this wrong. Can I, you know, drop some knowledge on you and show you how to do this differently with a kettlebell, and try to sell her a fucking $2,000 package when all she was planning on doing that day was coming in and using the fucking Kegel machine and the fucking Stairmaster. And if you could do that, once you have your name on a building, you can make a lot of things happen. But for guys like, yeah, I worked at a big box gym and I didn't really like that whole sales thing. I'm like, oh, okay. And you open your own business? They're like, yeah. I'm like, how's that going? They're like, it's not going great. I'm like, yeah, I fucking knew that, asshole. Like, I could tell.
Yeah. That's what by the way, this is why I love talking to like-minded people, because there's something to be said. And listen, you don't have to work your way up through the ranks, but there is this like, I mean, the fitness industry is small anyway, right? Like, we know everyone kind of, if you've been in the business long enough, but there is this like relatability when you talk that brings me back to the days of working my way up through the ranks. Like, my wife will look at my resume and she'll be like, why did you have so many jobs in the fitness industry? I'm like, because that's what it takes, right? When you're a trainer and you start out as a trainer and your GM's like, go on the floor and meet people, and you are terrified. But it teaches you
100%.
that when you meet people and give advice later on, you have to put in those hours. You have to, and it's going to be miserable and it's going to suck, but you got to go through it.
And you can probably relate to this because obviously you had a crazy, you know, the highest living expenses being in New York. Yeah. But if you do it well, here's the thing is, if you do it well inside the big box scene, I know it seems like there's a lot of big box gyms. There's really a small cohort of really good ones. Your name gets flushed around. I got my gig, like I got recruited by another company because I was the only white dude that was able to flip this one gym, this Urban Active, that was an all very impoverished black community. I'm the only white dude in there, but I would fucking nickel and dime 1% at a time, my sales goals, and crush. And guess what? I'm fucking, you know, young 20s. I got buddies that all, you know, they got their MBAs, whatever. I'm making more money fucking doing this thing. So you get rewarded and you also get sought after. So same thing was like, well, why did you bounce around with a lot of big box gyms? And I really bounced around the two at the time, but like, because when you're good at it, not only will you get compensated as a young professional, a young guy, which is a cool thing to do, but you actively get recruited because it's a high performance sales job. You will burn out at some point. You will hit a plateau. You'll hit a low streak. And guess what? They're going to be saying, what can you do? What have you done for me recently? Because at the end of the month, your fucking sales whiteboard gets wiped clean and you are right back to having to chase goal.
Yeah, the first day of the month is literally, at a lifetime, you have $300,000 goals. And on day one of the next month, it's like zero. You're like, oh my, what am I doing? But no, you're exactly right. I tell people all the time, trainers could be and are amongst the best salespeople ever. Now, we don't think of ourselves as salespeople, but the reality is you are, because we're trying to sell something that you don't have yet. We're trying to sell you on a dream of reaching your goal, where you could walk into a watch company trying to watch and feel the watch
and walk out with that motherfucker that day. Out with it. That's exactly. Like salons. You drop $700, $800 at a salon, you're going to come out with some fucking Brazilian extensions and some fucking different hair color instantaneous. We don't have instantaneous gratification. So you're selling an idea.
Exactly. And the question is how do you or I coach people up to not maybe get to our level? Because, you know, quite frankly, there's your top salespeople and there's like everyone else, and you can be good at it and survive and thrive and move up in the ranks. But how do you coach other people? And that's sort of the second half of my career. Now in boutique, I always believe it's a lot easier because things are smaller. It's more scalable. There's less staff. You could coach people up or out, you know, at a more reasonable pace. But that's really the question I kind of went through the learning curve in my career, is like, I was doing it at a very high level. I was moving up the ranks. Can I teach that to others? And so, and that's really what it comes down to.
And what's interesting, if anyone listening to this, it's like listening to me and Kory, it's like, okay, you guys got, I hear some big dick energy. You guys, I'm not like that alpha sales guy. I think you just get enough chops in the big box scene, or you could do this now at the boutique level too, but like enough chops to where you're like, okay, I'm okay enough at there. But what I think I could really gravitate to is developing a team, right? Maybe I'm more on the HR side. Maybe I really have good ideas from external B2B marketing and offsite events and stuff like that. There's other areas that this could take you, but yeah, the big takeaway initially right off the bat, guys, if you are wanting a career in the fitness industry, you don't have the capital or the concept to open your own business immediately, which I don't recommend. Go and eat shit, and you could get paid very well, and you will learn everything you pretty much need to know. Go to one of the established big box brands and put in a year, 2 years, 3 years, that kind of thing, and fucking, get your get your master's in business from the fitness industry.
Yeah, I remember here's the one moment that changed the way, or my attitude was early on in my career. I was in at Lifetime. I was there for about 6 years, which in like the real world was like 30 years in the fitness industry, right? No one stays at the same place for 6 years. And I remember my boss at the time, he walks in and he goes, for today's meeting, we're going to look at a YouTube TED Talk. And it was Simon Sinek, who was one of my favorite books, right?
The Golden Circle.
The Golden Circle, which I know you've done many talks about uncovering a person's why. My favorite quote in the world, anytime I do a talk or an appearance, I will always quote this: people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do. That for me changed, because when I reflected upon why I was so successful, wasn't because I was a salesperson. I just delivered a great experience. And so when I'm coaching others, focus and from the time, and you hit the nail on the head, from the time you walk into a place, I do the same thing. I film. I'm always analyzing the place I'm in, even if it's a fast food restaurant, right? What is that experience like? Is the person in back of the desk on their cell phone not paying attention? Or are they greeting you and saying, hey, Stu, welcome today. You're in for your first workout today. How you doing? And all through that experience, from the minute you walk in to the minute they decide to sell you something, what is that experience? And that's really what that video showed me, where Simon Sinek talks about. It's more about the why and not the how and the what. That for me was a defining moment.
You'll love this. So I got a client, and I go in, and I'm desperately trying to get them to understand that the problem that they have in a metropolitan area is that fitness is, I truly believe fitness is less of the best hour of the day, and it's more of a pillar of someone's schedule.
Love it.
Busy executives or people doing shit in life, whatever it is may be, like fitness has to fit into that schedule. It's got to be efficient. So I go in there, and the owner loves that Simon Sinek, so I write it up here. I'm like, you like this, right? He's like, oh yeah, we talk about this every meeting, blah, blah. And I draw another circle right in the very, like a bullseye. And I put, instead of why, I put where. Because where they were located, it was not a convenient location, and they were getting their shit stomped out by all the other gyms because they were on the fucking outskirts. They wanted cheaper rent, the whole deal. And they're wondering why they're not competing with even the half-ass boutiques in this city. And I was like, ultimately, there are some things like why, but there are also, convenience. I tell everyone, like, fuck your community. I don't care about the community of your gym. And honestly, neither do your customers. The second you become inconvenient is a cancellation. So where's the power of your why and community then? When convenience will always, always, always fucking win. If
you're right.
My job's on this side of town, and my kid goes to T-ball over here, I move over here, there's no why in the world, or no community. And even the what, like, I could love all those, but we are selfish fucking human beings, and time is the most valuable. There's 86,400 seconds in a day. And dude, going to you, there's a gym I like. Metabolic is like one of my favorite boutique workouts.
I've shopped in many times.
And I do a lot of work with that franchise, and their location is 2 miles away from me. But in South End, as if you visited that Volafit, 2 miles in South End with traffic could take me 22 minutes. So I go to a place that's a quarter of a mile away from me more often because of convenience. I love their why.
Here's the funny part about that. You and I and many, many people in the industry have these ways of overcoming objections, right? Like I have a 3-step process. At one time it was 5 steps. We can teach people. We do. You and I teach people how to overcome objections. There's a process for that. The one objection you can't overcome is location.
Yeah.
To your point, right? Like regardless of, it's why qualifying questions are so important. How many times especially for me in my early on in my career, where no one taught me what a qualifying question was, like, are you located near our studio, right? One of the first questions you should ask, because I've gotten stuck on the phone having a great conversation for 30 minutes with someone, but in the end, I forgot to ask that one question, and they just saw an advertisement somewhere, didn't realize they weren't even in the same state. As where, and it was just a waste of conversation. And it's one of those things. So I think the moral of the story here is, Stu, is I'm going to I'm going to steal your idea of putting where. I'm not going to give you credit the next time I present somewhere because I love it so much, but it's true. You can't overcome location.
You can't, man. There was a what was it? The Italian Job. Mark Wahlberg,
Yeah,
Shirley Sarah. Okay, and what's the dude? And he got really big into all the action roles. The British guy, bald head, badass. Jason's whatever's.
Statham.
There's a scene where he's scouting out like their escape route. He's in the car and he's timing it exactly how long it's going to take in traffic. I would do that with every location I ever open when I own gym. Like I would go and I drive this side, I drive this, I drive at 5:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the evening. I wanted always, and that doesn't make sense to people. So when I retired from gym ownership and I opened the gym real estate company, like that's a lot of where I really, when helping gym owners buy and lease buildings, was understanding before that business plan, before the brand, and before the client acquisition, and before the client experience, bro, the fucking location is so goddamn important depending on what it, what model and what it is you're looking for. Let's talk a little bit about that. So like VoloFit, I'm sure you got to be in the room and have the conversations. You guys are looking at cities. Charlotte, the South End area is a very popular spot to put it. It's kind of like a Buckhead in Atlanta, or the Strip area in Pittsburgh, or DuPont in DC. Like it's a trendy, cool fucking area. When you guys will, if you've been down to the South End location, correct? Sure. Yeah, okay. So you've been down there.
Yep.
What is it? Do you believe now that there's kind of a recipe for success in boutique? Glass windows, storefront, high walkability score, metropolitan area, and then like your tier 2 is like the same thing, but in the burbs in a shopping plaza. Like where do you see the tiers of locations if you or like had to custom pick, spots for a gym to open up?
What's funny, Stu, is that F45 and my time there, and I still have a lot of great friends there, because they scaled so fast in the US, it changed my perception. And here's why. We did a study probably, I think it was right before COVID hit, so maybe 2019. And I remember this really vividly, where the number 18th location in the world for F45, I don't know where it was, but it was in the world somewhere. Their average household income was like $127,000. So pretty good, right? The one right before that, ranked higher, number 17, was only $57,000. I think it was somewhere in Atlanta. And I looked at it, I'm like, because how many owners used to complain to me like, we're in a bad area, which is true. It could be. Here's the thing though. So yes, I believe being able to see storefronts, high accessibility, obviously traffic's a big concern. So it's got to be somewhere that's accessible.
Parking, all that stuff.
Exactly. I still believe it comes down to what kind of talent did you hire to run that process? There's something to be said for experience. Gosh, 3 years ago, I wrote a book on customer experience. It sounds boring, but like to me, that's what I always think about, because when a person walks in, listen, you might not get as many leads as a higher traffic area in a bad location, but can you capitalize and have a better conversion rate? That's the key, right? So I believe if asking better questions, doing a proper needs analysis, having that skill set to overcome objections. Now, at the end of the day, I will caveat it by saying it's not ideal to be in a bad location, right?
Sure.
You and I and people that have been in the industry for that long, it's hard to find talent like that to do the things I'm talking about.
Yeah.
For the most part, though, I agree with what you said.
Yeah. I mean, I have this conversation all the time on the gym real estate side. It's like, okay, we're looking at this location and this location. So let's maybe, less expensive, more expensive, less attractive, more attractive. You might save $4,000 a month in rent here, but you might have to spend $5 to $6 a month in marketing to draw people there. Because I do believe in the world of Google Maps, it really doesn't matter where, like, you don't need the drive-by traffic as much, but you do need, like, there is something like, I mean, my God, it's so nice. I literally could walk to the gym, walk to the coffee shop, come home. There is something about that entire experience, and it's not due to the gym or due to the coffee shop or due to my location. It's due to all, it's just the ability of all three, Now, again, there's some people listening to this that like, I don't walk anywhere. I'm not in a walkability city. I drive 10 to 15 minutes and it all scales out to the same thing, but you're ultimately going to spend probably maybe close to equal money. It's either going to be in the high end rent with maybe you get to have to spend less money in client acquisition because you've got the fucking 10,000 people walking by a day, Or you're going to be in a less, smaller rent area that you're just going to have to be very crafty and, clever with your guerrilla marketing, your digital, your paid, your organic, all that shit.
Yeah, no, there's, I'm on Long Island, and on Long Island, my home studio where I tend to work out is still one of the originals F45s in the entire United States. They were the first one on the East Coast. They happen to be on Long Island, like 5 miles from me. On the one strip, Stu, there's 13 other boutique, title boxing, OTF, you name it. There's like a lot of competition. It's in a pretty decent high-end area. They crush it. They're one of the highest revenue generating with the most members of F45s in the entire country. But when you walk in there, their staff, they've retained their same staff for the last 4 years. They have a high ticket price, which
is high for staff in the boutique scene. That's
huge,
a high turnover.
Right? That never happens, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is they just want a great experience. Their experience is a kick-ass experience. Follow-ups. They retain their clients longer than the average person. They get a ton of people from the other boutiques. So again, location, you can't overcome that objection. So that is a reality, but you need to pair that with having just a kick-ass experience.
Yeah. How do you, as someone, you've been in the industry and you've seen, again, we talked about like even at the health club, high turnover because it's high pressure sales. At the boutique, high turnover because there's really nowhere to go. I mean, it's a very low ceiling. And I've got guys in the space, he's in Long Beach, New York, like Sean Pastuch and a lot of company in Active Life and these brands that are like, hey, this whole boutique thing is so broken from a creating careers for people in the fitness industry. Like the reason your doctor doesn't have respect for the personal trainer is because personal trainers are personal trainers for 4 to 5 years, and then they can't really do anything with it or make any real money. So they quit and they go get some other job. Like it's not a high end, it's not looked at as a high end profession. It should be. But yeah, I mean, the fitness industry, especially in the boutique world, right? Especially the franchise model, it burns through employees at such a high, fast rate. And it's not designed to create careers. It's designed to create career for maybe the top, GM who might be an area coordinator later, who might open their own franchise. But it's a narrow lane.
Oh yeah. I mean, God, you've hit career growth. I mean, that's Jesus. That's why how many times in your career, or like, I remember early on when someone would introduce me as a trainer, and for some reason, and this is so stupid, but I'd be like, no, listen, I have a sports medicine degree.
Yeah. I was like, it's embarrassing.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be, because we're great trainers and there's great trainers in the world. The reality is you're exactly right. One of the first things I thought about coming to boutique is that, to me, and these are small things, but thinking in terms of career growth, is there should be a GMA position. I've always liked, when you're a sales associate at a front desk, it's either you're a sales associate or you're a GM. You can't go from a sales associate to a GM.
Sure.
So one of the things I put in place is having a GM assistant. It gives the salesperson a chance to move up. Same thing with a head coach, right? Like you're a coach, you're a head coach, but then where do you go from there? I will tell you now what we are seeing, or what I'm seeing, more so with the bigger brands in boutique, F45, Orange Theory, is private equity groups.
Yeah.
Private equity groups are now buying up a lot of territories. And what they're doing is they're hiring experienced people with that have a career path attached to it. Why? Because they have the finances to do it. And so now there are small, albeit, but there are opportunities for a trainer or a coach to become an area head trainer or a regional head trainer or a regional GM or a regional director. That's really where I see boutique moving. I see a lot of the private equity groups coming in, swooping up territories and hiring staff to do that.
But it means now trainers who truly like, man, like my grandfather was a doctor from 29 to 60. My uncle was a lawyer from 31 to fucking 72. Wow. I can't be a trainer for my entire fucking life, because we're, like you said, the only ascension is not in training. You now have to have the business acumen, operations acumen. You've got to get that corporate fucking hat on, and you got to be able to go there. And it is, and there's a part of me that's, I believe what Sean and a lot of these guys say is like, there's an element of this fitness industry thing that's broke, but it's because we created these economic models in these boutiques that unfortunately the margins of where they are, because our expenses are so high in these nice locations and all the things that go into fucking making Rumble look like how Rumble does, it just doesn't allow the fucking margins to have career. Now, few brands I think have broken out of that. You've seen like the Soul Cycles of the world. Like, and again, I'm not even really very, maybe you can answer this with your experience. Are the row houses, the Pure Bars, the Rumbles, the fucking Volo Fits, the boutique scenes, are those coaches able to hit like that 150 plus an hour type thing that we saw with Soul Cycle and Flywheel early on with that volume based, like the spin studios did really well. Yoga studios did really well with that.
No, they can't. They're not hitting that. I mean, back in, like the Soul Cycle, who again, I always say like it was CrossFit. And then you got like, who were the other trendsetters once CrossFit set the precedent? Barry's and probably Soul Cycle at the time, right? Soul Cycle for sure. I mean, but then you start talking about more of like that rock star instructor versus like the trainer. We were still just trainers.
I wasn't a performer. I wasn't an entertainer.
Exactly. I think when you're in front of 30, 35, 40 people, like back in the day, Soul Cycle, Barry, I think it afforded the opportunity to have this different perception of those people. But you're right. I always tell young trainers this: you will come to a fork in the road. You will either have to make the decision to become a rock star trainer and train celebrities, which is few and far between, or you will go the route that I did, which is the business route. Working your way up the ranks, learning the operations, learning the sales, becoming a GMA, a GM, a regional, and then, whatever you want to do after that. For me, it was executive, but that's where I believe a trainer still to this day, unfortunately, you have one road that doesn't really lend to too much success in terms of financial. The other is you gotta learn the traits of being more on the business side.
And the third, and I want to ask you, did you ever consider opening up your own gym? Because that's the third route that most end up going.
That's the third rail. You're right. I did. I actually opened up my own place. It was more of a speed and agility. Before Lifetime, I opened up my own place. It was called Fast Edge. It was speed and agility training before that was a thing.
Sure.
And I was pretty successful. I trained about 45 high schools in New York, some celebrities here and there. But the point of that is it's fucking hard. Yeah. And you have to be willing to take a risk. You have to be willing to lose a lot of money. And again, it's funny how how trainers think they could just start their own personal training business. And it's just going to be that, especially since the pandemic. Yeah. Like, I left Equinox. I'm going to go start my own personal. Okay, what's your business plan for that? Because so is 1,000 other trainers doing that. So it's hard right now. I still don't see a really good path to success unless you have a really good model or mentor or a consultant, or because you can't just go out and do it. It's just the reality is it doesn't afford you the ability to do that.
I'd be curious. So if anyone's not familiar with VoloFit and you walked in, it is, again, if I had to, it's the Venn diagram I feel of, it's a CrossFit in the feel of some of the equipment we see, right? We have the squat racks, we've got the pull-up bars, all that kind of shit. You got the rowers, whatever it may be. It's got that, or it's got the, Orange Theory and F45 feel, and you've got the TV screens and the heart rate monitors. You can kind of see the exercises as you go. My question is this. So I like to think that a lot of fitness, a lot of new brands that have hit out since the CrossFit pop, and just for everyone understanding, the thing I think that what Kory and I would agree on this is that what CrossFit did is Curves was the most successful fitness franchise before their implosion. And that was just, if anyone's not familiar with Curves, it was women's only. It was just machines in a circle, like the leg extension machine. And they would just go, and it's like musical chairs, except no one ever got kicked out. Like you just went in a circle to a timer with music, and your mom and grandma would just go from one machine to the other. And it's essentially what boutique is today. We're just way more violent with it, and we're just way more creative with it. But CrossFit just took this idea that globo-gym was, and I helped design these health club facilities. I put my weights far away to the back of the tour, right? I didn't want them up front. I wanted the cardio equipment here. And it was this weights, resistance training, pin selector equipment, then go do some cardio and then leave. Whereas CrossFit just blended the two things. And we look at this like, oh, that's like collegiate strength and conditioning. That's just like, that's what it is. Okay, now the HIT companies come and absorb it. But I see these like VoloFit. My first thing, and I judged it when I first walked in, I was like, how much money that was smart, meaning the person who acquired all this cash had to have been smart.
Yeah.
Someone pitches them. I was like, okay, here's the new idea, right? You know F45? And he's like, yeah. You know Orange Theory? Yeah. You know CrossFit? Yeah. Menage a trois. They're all fucking each other. And the baby is VoloFit. And someone's like, all right, I'll stroke a check right now. Let's start creating franchises. Wait, like how many more of these versions are we going to see? And how many different colored lights? Or, Orange Theory, orange lights, berries, red lights, go to fucking eat the frog, green lights. Like, how many different colored light models are we going to fucking have? Like, I just like the differences, the degrees of difference between these different models is getting so fucking small. What's the new one that Exponential just bought out of Australia? Fit Body.
I think it is Fit Body. Yeah.
Fit Body. It essentially, it looks like a more badass version of F45. More
well, even F45 has FS8 now.
Yeah, correct.
The answer to your question is there's not going to be too many. Here's what I see. I see big box adopting more of what boutique's doing to get people back into big box. First of all, big box will never go away. Big box, great. I still have multiple memberships myself, and I go to a lot of different places. I remember last December, I wrote an article about, I think the title was like, what big box is adopting from boutique. And they're smart. So now before you'd go into a big box gym and you walked into the spin room and the lighting would be the same. The music, right, would be a little bit louder, whatever. But basically it was all the same flow. Now they're completely separate rooms. I went to a Gold's Gym last year in Colorado. I walked into one of their rooms that you did HIIT training. They have their own dedicated HIIT training space now. It was like I walked into a freaking like F45 or something. It was amazing. It was, you would not know you're in a Gold's Gym. And so what I think they're doing now is they're investing more money, better programming, and they're adopting all of this stuff from boutique. But how much watered down is boutique going to get? I mean, God, I mean, I don't see it really. Yeah, more rocket science ideas that are going to come out of boutique.
Yeah, because we're not going to create new tools or ingredients for the most part. Like, I mean, I think we're still going to be using dumbbells and maybe shorter, but I think they'll become more space conservative because just the price we're all having to pay for commercial real estate these days and having high operational capacity. And, the genius that, OTF brought to the market was like, yeah, give me 1,800 square feet and I'll put 45 motherfuckers in here. Yeah. And that's the only way, like going back to everyone's like, when we were talking, how does someone get paid $150 for a class? Your 15-person CrossFit class is never going to achieve that. You got to look at like when Soul Cycle is doing it, there's 50 fucking people in that class paying $33 a ride.
Yep.
Now on those unit
ride, that's amazing.
Yeah. No, for those unit economics, you can make payroll very robust. But that's why when someone's like, I'm going to get a 7,000 square foot facility, I'm like, bro, you better have fucking 75 people classes. The fuck are you thinking 7,500 square feet? What do you need all that for? Like it anyway, but you're 100% right. When I think of the watered down of it, I agree. I think it's just kind of just different shades of the same thing. And I'm kind of curious, like I personally believe the one thing boutique has done, and then the growth of all the online coaches in the pandemic, it's a lot of education. Like you and me as trainers, like for professionals, we know a lot of things. We know the sits muscles in our rotator cuff, and we know the difference between abduction and adduction. And now they're regular humans, people that I just know that are fucking bankers, that because they've been doing CrossFit for 9 years, they're actually like they're somewhat pretty educated and straight. They know how to do it. They follow different people online that maybe specialize in different things. They follow Marcus Philly with functional bodybuilding, or they do this. And now they're like, I like my CrossFit gym, or I like F45, but I kind of wish, like, I see that workout, but I'd like to do something specific. Like, I really want my chest stronger, bigger, whatever. In this workout, while it's fun, and I'm glad I'm here with my friends in my community, it's not going to get me what I want. And I know what I want now. Group boutique is all about, I don't know what recipe I want. I'm going to show up and you give me a recipe. You do that long enough, you start to learn about recipes. And now you might want your own thing. That's why I think the Gold's gyms that are investing in the open gym concept, just like they've always had, but with all this cool functional fitness equipment that we've all been doing in boutique, I think there's an opportunity there, or for these boutiques to start having open gym hours during the dead times.
Yep. First of all, the one thing you said, that something we haven't talked about, why boutique also does really well, generally speaking, is that I think the best ones do a great job in terms of what you're talking about, education, is social media. So social media, as we've talked about it 1,000 times probably, but it's one of the best ways to put out education. And I think you're finding more people in the boutique demographic, 18 to 45-ish, somewhere in there, is that they appreciate the education because they're learning more about not only what are they getting themselves into at a particular boutique studio, but how is that going to affect them? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, them, right? And when you look at what the best are doing, yourself included, it's content, thought leadership about a variety of different things, whether it's from the programming to the technology they have there. And then it's consistency. It's that constant education for the consumer. I think that plays a role in what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's, I just don't see, I can't see vision, the evolution of boutique getting that much more innovative. Like I said, I think the degrees. So it's like, what's the next model? I keep calling it this hybrid model. And I'm just looking at these boutiques that have too much space. So like a VoloFit wouldn't be able to pull this off. Maybe they would, but like having this open gym, I can come in and use the equipment and do my own thing, and I can pay you actually for extra programming. I want the chest and glutes, or I want to fucking improve my pull-ups or whatever, my deadlift or whatever it is, and I can come in and use the facility in off times for an extra cost. Or eventually, like what I always see the drip out, even like CrossFit gyms that I think have some of the best lifetime client values and length of memberships. Because there's so much there's so much to chase in CrossFit. Like at Orange Theory, you only get so many fucking splat points before you don't give a fuck anymore, right? Like but in CrossFit, because they're doing so fucking much, I mean, there's always a fucking unicorn to chase that you haven't achieved fitness wise yet. Which is, I think, that competitive sport thing. While there's a lot of it I fucking hate, it does play a decent, I think it's great for retention to a degree. But yeah, I think there's got to be a model now that's going to start playing where people are just able to just go and there's so many brands now online of like people like, oh, I resonate with that dude because he's got tattoos and he rides a motorcycle and he uses landmines in his workouts. I want to start using landmines in my workout, right? Like
that's where I think boutiques going. I mean, you think about the average boutique studio has 7 or 8 classes a day. That's it.
Yeah.
What are you doing on your dead time?
Yeah.
I think it would be very smart of the powers that be who run boutique studios or franchises to consider, number one, small group training, because I've tested all this out at the variety of roles I've been in at boutique studios, and it works for ancillary revenue. Not only does it work for ancillary revenue, but nothing else is going on in your studio anyway outside of a class. So small group training and one-on-one training, but you're giving that trainer an opportunity or that coach an opportunity to make higher revenue themselves. Rather than even if you have 7 or 8 classes a day, that particular coach is probably only coaching 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
That means they have to get another job. That means they're not just loyal to you. That means they're probably going to leave you in a couple of months. And that's the turnover you see, not only in boutique, but in big box as well.
It's always been, you saw what nine rounds did. 9 rounds tried to combat this whole, like, well, we're dead during the day with show up at any time. And a class technically starts every 15 minutes. You do your 9 rounds thing to be as convenient as possible. And I like that. I find myself with that now. The gym I go to, it's a giant CrossFit gym. I don't take the classes as much, but I convinced them to push forward with an open gym model before I announced the retirement thing. I need someone to work out. And I mean, but it's like between the hours of 1 to 3. Not everybody has why? Because they're making money before that in regular classes and after that in regular classes. Okay. So it's like, it's something that would have to live almost concurrently. So Pure Fitness is a brand I've been watching out of the UK. And they're Pure Gym over in the UK. I think they're Pure Fitness here in the US. And they're going to compete with the Blinks and the Planet, but they're going to be low cost, to be a low cost, high volume model. Yep. But they have put so much money into Rogue and functional fitness equipment versus the fucking money suck ellipticals, all the bullshit that breaks every fucking 4 months anyway. And I think that's gonna be interesting. I think the world maybe that, in 5 to 7, 10 years is like, I have a trainer, a program that I pay 20, 40, 50 bucks a month for that I like. I'm autonomous. I did boutique for 9 years. I know what I'm doing. I'm not getting myself hurt. I just have specific goals that recipe in that class doesn't always get me.
Yeah, and that again, it goes back to the point of what big box is learning from boutique, right? And what I remember, New York Sports Club, I worked at their corporate headquarters. I don't even remember. I'm like 23 years old, and they had just switched to like high volume HVLP model, and that was like a big controversy back then. But they had this, I forgot what the floor was called. It was like X floor, and it was like a functional training right in the middle of the floor. They got rid of some of the cardio equipment, and same thing with retro fitness did the same thing. Got rid of a quarter of their cardio equipment, put in the functional training floor because that's what people are identifying with. with these, and we talked about hybrid models. Now it's online, right? You have a lot of online access, and then you can still go and achieve your goal at the place down the road from you.
Yeah, you've never seen an Instagram influencer on a recumbent bike that cost $6,500 from Precor. No, never. It's something functional. It's something resistance training based. No, I agree 100%. We're with like VoloFit and some of those brands there. How much of it is a race to franchise exit? The original investors or franchisees are exiting in 5 to 7, and then whatever happens.
Yeah, I mean that's what you see with Exponential, right? Their model is like first 3 years is like, and then we're out. I think it's an interesting question because now you have fitness, but you have wellness a lot. I'm with a company now, which literally just as of yesterday,
the IV drip company.
Yeah, and it's more wellness, but really what I think, no matter what sector you're in, you got to have proof of concept first.
Yes.
But I think the mentality of a lot of people is 3 years is your exit strategy. That's what, and I don't know if that's because Exponential has set that precedent, but certainly they're one of the biggest, if not the biggest in the world right now, doing what they do.
Yeah.
But I think that's the mentality because fitness is always fluid, post pandemic. And I think people get skittish. I always believe though, that regardless of the pandemic, fitness is never going away, right? That's the bottom line.
It's not. And if everyone, so I got into the industry in 08. And so, I mean, but the industry grew by 2.5% in 08. Like, I don't want to say anything's recession proof, but we're very, very recession resilient in this industry. Everyone's like, what should I do about the recession? I'm like, do what you were doing last year, just like better. Right. Let's go to what's the name of the IV company you just got on with?
So it's called the DripBar. I've been looking at it for a while. And again, what we were saying before is I look at it from a franchise perspective first, right? Because that like boutique franchise, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the same square footage. The staffing model is simple. But really wellness to me excites me. I haven't been in fitness my entire life.
Yeah.
First of all, wellness is paired with fitness a lot of the times. So I started to see their growth and it's just crazy. I mean, the amount of locations to come. I think there'll be 25 open now with another well over 100 slated for the next year or two. But I look at it from a business standpoint. And what I look at is people just like fitness, like the fact that they take care of themselves from a cellular level. And so when we talk about IV drips, obviously it's the fastest way to deliver, nutrients, and it's absorbed at a higher percentage. And so when I look at it from that standpoint, man, you can go and get a great workout. You can get your nutrients delivered at a very high level in a safe way, in a very aesthetically pleasing, because this aesthetics is a big thing for me too, right? Walking into that place.
Sure.
You need to feel at ease. You need to feel motivated. And certainly that's what I think they do well.
So I'm very intrigued by this. So I'm a fucking degenerate. Like I have a membership at the one of the DripBar. It's not the DripBar brand. Yeah. In New Orleans. I do guys trips there every year, whatever. And I just buy an annual membership. So when I go there, the very next fucking morning, I can get synced up for my hangover. I've got one in Nashville. Hangover. Yeah. Hangover. So I remember seeing these. I was like, this is incredible. There's going to be a period of time where people are going to think like, oh, that seems extreme. But we all say that about things before we adopt. And so I was like, okay, cool. There'll be the early adopters to this, but this thing will catch on. There's one here in Charlotte I go to, and the one in Charlotte, it's like in these big, nice southern looking homes that have been dual zone for business. And you walk in and you've got your own TV and you fucking got the couch and you hang out there on a Saturday morning after getting banged up with your buddies, and you get you and a couple guys in there. And now it's even to the point you can have a cocktail. I could literally be getting detoxed and retox at the same time. And it's like, it's so fucking funny because I'm there and I'm like, yeah, this does make me feel better after a night of drinking. But now it's kind of like this social experience. And now it's also a little bit of a status thing. I've seen some of my friends post, and because it's maybe 150, initially kind of getting in there. And then I think once you become a member, it's a little bit less expensive.
Yeah. And anywhere from 50 to like 300, right? You can get a quick shot of vitamin B12. But the funny part to what you were saying, or the true part to what you're saying is, I first heard about it years ago when celebrities were doing it for hangovers. I thought nothing of it. I was like, wow, if I had the money, I guess I would do that. Yeah. What I didn't realize in doing all of my due diligence, and one thing I think you'll appreciate, you should have him on one time, is our CEO, Ben Crosby. he ran Tap Out Fitness. So that was his foray into franchising, right? So Tap Out Fitness.
That was originally the apparel brand, right? Chuck Liddell, fucking bedazzled jeans, the whole fucking thing. Yeah.
And then they expanded into franchising.
Yeah.
Fitness, right? So he knows the game. But more importantly, what we do well, I think, is deliver education. It's a higher barrier of entry for us to deliver a drip. But that being said, right, there's a lot of education and a lot of rapport building with the customer. And again, if you think about what I said earlier, that's what I do best. Or I should say, Stu, that's what I'm most passionate about. Again, customer experience to me is everything. So if I have the ability to deliver not only a great experience, but to make someone feel great in a great looking place in a safe way, man. And I mean, talk about growth. I mean, think about Army bases having a DripBar, cruise ships having a DripBar, Vegas hotels having a DripBar, New Orleans hotels having a DripBar. That's why I'm in it.
I think it's super smart. And I think it's some of these things that from a DripBar perspective, and I know the one in Nashville, like I booked a bachelor party, you pay a little bit. It's not even that much extra. They'll come to the Airbnb. They'll come to the fucking hotel and they'll set up. And I mean, it feels like that. Was it Wolf of Wall Street? What movie was? But it does. It seems like it's a status thing. It's like, oh my God, these guys. I'm like, and it's something that is, I believe, is at a price point that the average human, if you can afford a boutique gym membership, you can afford to do this if needed. Now let's take it out of the degenerate phase. The best one, the one in New Orleans I go to, glass storefront, and they have a bunch of chairs lining the front of it. So you're literally looking out at the street where everyone's walking, and they're walking past you like they're looking at the zoo. And it's, me and a bunch of buddies after getting banged up, and then 3 dudes that are doing it there was a marathon in town. And so it's athletes in there, right? It's people who are maybe germaphobe, COVID conscious, whatever, they want to keep their immune system up.
That's what I didn't realize. The amount of people that have chronic illnesses that go there. And so again, I'm a trainer by trade. And how many times have we talked about nutrition as part of, or delivering nutrients as part of our training? Is only an hour. The stupid line we always used to say is, after I got done with a training with a client, was like, hey, I trained you for an hour, but you got 23 hours of the day. You got to watch your eating, right? And so this is just another way to deliver nutrients. And again, I didn't realize how big it was until I saw early on, the market is blowing up right now. And so we're one of the first. And so when I think about, back to kind of what we've been talking about fitness, to me, it's like, imagine being one of the first Orange Theory or CrossFit locations.
Yeah.
And how big it got, that to me is where I think I'm at now with this brand or any of the IB brand. That's where I think I'm at.
I'd love for you to do an introduction. I would love to know some of the unit economics, because saline bags and vitamin B12 and stuff is not very expensive. Registered nurses demand a decent hourly rate. And from what I've interacted with a ton of them, they do this on the side, and they're actually a nurse at the hospital as well. And it's extra cash, and they're like, it's lovely. You guys are just you smell like whiskey. I'm not dealing with someone dying like at the hospital. This is great, low stress cash, right?
Yeah. I remember my sister, who's a nurse practitioner, years ago. Remember when laser hair removal?
Yeah.
And like at the time I did a bodybuilding show. So I was like, I got it for free. I flew down to Orlando where she lives. And this freaking machine there's better technology now, but it was killing me, right? But at the end of the day, it got rid of my hair. Great. She was making a killing, and that wasn't even her main job. Yeah. But besides the financial aspect to it, it was just fun. It's like working at a Gold's Gym, but having private clients on the side as a trainer. Like your pay is higher. It was fun. You could make your own hours. That's kind of like what we see in this sector, is like registered nurses are just amazing on their own, but it gives them an affordability to go out and make some extra income.
And there's very little, at least in my experience, there's very little sales right now. Boutique, someone walks in, they're probably trying you out amongst other boutique options. In here, someone's coming in looking, again, instant gratification. They've already seen the pricing. And I don't think I've ever paid on site. I always just pay through the app or through the scheduling service. I pay in advance, right? I mean, how many gyms here are selling the $200 gym membership e-com style online before anybody ever walks in? Fucking nobody.
Yeah.
And so
exactly, it's the genius of Ben, which again, I think it's interesting that he comes. One of the things why I took the role is because of Ben.
what is the role, by the way?
So I'm a chief operating officer for our umbrella company, which is Zor 411. We actually, it's sort of like an early on exponential where we look for other franchises to invest in.
Yeah.
And then we help build the brand. And then I'm overseeing the sales and the revenue strategy for DripBar specifically because we're growing so fast. And
very cool.
But I think that's the genius of what he saw from the fitness side of the business coming over to the wellness side of the business. And listen, what I foresee is partnering with a lot of fitness franchises. F45, to name a few. I know they partnered with a lot of fitness franchises in pre-sale. We have a location in Florida, for example. We're in the same shopping center as an F45. So you can imagine higher price point to your, location is big, obviously, to your point earlier on, where you want to be in a little bit of a higher household income demographic, but there's opportunities for us to partner with a lot of people in fitness. And that's what I think is great. I'm finally not competing with fitness franchises.
Sure, yeah.
I'm partnering with them. And Stu, as you know, that's like the goal.
I'm adjacent to them.
I can walk in and not feel like I'm a threat.
Absolutely. And, the thing, if I were, so someone asked me, what would you invest in right now, brick and mortar wise? And, I definitely think a DripBar, my number one that I think I would go with right now, just from seeing some of the numbers, TRT clinics.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, like, and that's, I feel like something like a DripBar with an actual TRT clinic that is going to have a doctor on site is going, like, I see that as something that is going to be very mainstream. It's still early adopter right now, but that's okay. Get in while it's early adopter because it's going to get very expensive. You don't want to wait till the party showed up because then the tickets are too expensive.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, I spot on there. I think from a fitness standpoint, I mean, listen, if I was investing now, I mean, the first couple of questions I would ask is what kind of support are you getting from the friend? Because I think the biggest complaint I used to get all the time is, whether it's true or not from the person telling me, is the lack of support that corporate gives us. They promised us all this stuff from a franchise level. They're not delivering, right? Like we hear that all the time. The reality is that's probably the first thing I would always look at if I'm investing in something is, what kind of support are we going to give you from a corporate standpoint to help you be as successful as possible? That might mean LMS platform to help you educate yourself on sales and ops. It might mean site visits from the corporate team as you're in pre-sale, helping you hire, what's your hiring strategy and your staffing model. That's really what I would approach at it from first. And then I would, look to see what would make the best investment. But to your point, wellness right now is crushing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on DripBar's website right now. I'm looking at the numbers, and I mean, showing the gross revenue here at in the eights. Operating expenses and cost of goods sold are going to put you in like the around 300,000. So like net revenue on a location could be $500,000. I mean,
yeah, and what I would tell you before, because you alluded to it before, is to me, I think about OpEx.
Yeah,
like coming from fitness, especially a higher brand, right? Your OpEx is high, rent being number one, payroll being number two. The staffing model in our particular DripBar and what we do is significantly less because we don't need as many staff members because we don't have 8 classes running a day where you need.
Correct. And one nurse can hook up one IV, walk the fuck away and go do another one, do another shot, a B12 shot, whatever it is. And I'm looking at your footprints. Your footprints are 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. The startup costs here are extremely reasonable compared to if I wanted to jump on with Exponential or another boutique franchise right now. Dude, very interesting. Kory, good job, man. Good find. Congrats, by the way, bro.
I didn't find it, so I'll give credit to Ben.
Did they found you?
Yeah, but they found me. So
listen,
I'll take what I can get.
Listen, bro, it's because you're being in the right places at the right times, going up to the BFS summit and all that kind of shit, right? and doing all the work and traveling and doing the things. Kory, listen, if anyone listening to this was jiving with what you said and they want to connect in some way, shape, or form, what's the best way for someone to connect with you?
Yeah, you could go to Koryfit, Koryfit on Instagram. Obviously, like you, I like to put out a lot of thought leadership. KoryAngelin.com, and then certainly visit the DripBar. You're going to see a lot more of us all around the world. So I'm looking forward to connecting with anyone, and certainly you're doing a great job, Stu. So looking forward to seeing you at a DripBar when you're in the right town, in the right state.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next time I'm in North Carolina, I'll holler at you.
Absolutely, dude. Thank you so much for coming on today. This was a blast. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Stu.